Okay, so what we're going to talk about is a topic called Cascading Style Sheets. And I think this is a topic that's best covered with examples. So, for example, if we had a web page like this, we're looking at a web page. It has example 1 in kind of big letters, HTML page with some styles in smaller letters. This is in bold, this is strong, this is big, this is emphasized. This text is in italics, end is purple, this text is small. And then we have like subscripts and superscripts. We could say H2O equals MC squared. So if we wanted to see what the code looks like, the HTML code for this, we could do view source. And I'll make it bigger. And what we're doing in this code, this is the whole file. So I'm basically saying these are now styles. So first we'll talk about styles, then we'll group them together in what they call a sheet, and then we can start piling the sheets on top of each other. But right now what I'm saying is, in HTML, I'm saying this is H1, so it's heading 1. And that's actually defined in HTML to be a white background by default, black print, and a certain size. We can alter that if we want later on, but there's a default setting for those. So this is heading 1, this text is in heading 2, and I just put the H2 and the end of H2 around it. In this case, I could say paragraph, and then a B ends up meaning bold. So this text is in bold. End of bold, end of paragraph. New paragraph. Strong. This text is strong, end of paragraph. Then there's big. Big's another HTML. So you could go on Google and just find out all the different ways you can change the text. So don't worry about like trying to memorize these. So this text is bold, this text is big, end of paragraph. EM is for emphasis. So this text is emphasized. Didn't look too much different than the big text, but it's the emphasized attribute. Now in this case, all the files so far, all the lines in the code are black and the background is white. That is the HTML default. So if you don't say, if you don't specify the background or the color by default, it's a white page with black print. What we could do is we could say, now what I'm doing is I'm creating a style wrapper. I'm doing font and I'm saying the color is purple. And this will now be in effect until we close out this font with a slash font. So now I have a paragraph, and the I puts it in italics. So this sentence appears in italics because of this style, and it'll end up being purple because I put this font wrap around it, and I said from this point on things are going to be purple until this stops. Then once it stops, it switches back to the default of black. This print is small, and it'll go back to being black. And then for a paragraph, a new paragraph, I could say H with a subscript of 2, end of the subscript, O, so it's H with a little 2 and O. And E equals MC superscript 2, end of superscript, so the 2 is up in the text bar. Okay, so you might be thinking now, if there's a lot of attributes about, let's say, a paragraph, what color it is, what its background is it superscript, is it, all the different attributes about it, and we would have to start peppering those attributes all over the sentence. Suppose we had a sentence that was supposed to be purple and bold and in italics and what else? Strong. We have this one sentence and then we have all of these attributes about that whole sentence. It might be good to collect all the attributes, the style, together and put that somewhere separate and then just say this sentence has all of these attributes. So we could just write it once. Then we could also use those attributes all over the place so we don't have to attach them to every sentence. So you could look at an example. This is code that we now have. This is our case. So the colors don't come up here as good as they do on that computer, but this is kind of a dull purple and a heavier purple on the front. And then we have some buttons on the side for navigation to move around. Okay, so this is an example where the style sheet, now what I'm going to do is take the style attributes, gather them together, and then make the words that are here refer to them. And they'll all be in the same file. So, this is the source now of the page we're looking at. And here's how this will work. It's not too big of a file, but it's not in there. Okay. So we're saying, basically what we're doing is now we're going to say this is a style sheet. So that's this is the start of the style sheet, and it ends down here. That's the end of the style section. And what are we going to do? We're going to define one section with the name body. One section is called body, and it has a collection of attributes about it. Georgia, New York Times, it's purple, and here's the background color, and this is one of those cryptic colors. So any part of our web page that is considered within the body section will have these attributes about it. Then we have another section called an unordered list, and we gave it the name navigation bar. And there's attributes about that, what the padding is, what the margin is, where the positions are, where's the top, where's the left point, how wide is it, all different attributes about that section. Then we can have, and this is this gets a little involved. We have an unordered list, the navigation bar, and then this is a list item. So the navigation bar ends up being this part. This ends up being the navigation bar. So we said we defined a region, how wide it is. We defined what the colors are of each of the text on the buttons. We'd also like to, we might want to, we don't have to, if somebody clicks on a page, goes and looks at that and then comes back here, we might want to change the color of it to let the person know you've already seen this, and maybe this page has not been seen and this page has not been seen. So we have an opportunity to change the color once it's been visited. You know, it'll be one color if it's never been visited, one color if it is visited, and then also while the mouse is moving over it, yeah, okay, so something different happens. So we could also say while we're hovering over it, we could have a set of attributes. So, if we go back to, we have, that's what this ends up being. So this is our unordered list, the navigation bar, has those attributes. The unordered list navigation bar individual list item, each of the individual blocks themselves have these attributes. The A field, the navigation bar A, that's the hyperlink. If you remember the HTML, if you make a hyperlink, you say A, you type in some words, end of A, and then that gets hyperlinked to something. So you could say, I like to go to, and then inside an A, Facebook, end of A, and then that means the word Facebook will then hyperlink to www.facebook.com. So that's the A attribute. Then the individual link, we can make one color. We can, within the A, we could say if it's been visited, it turns purple. If it hasn't been visited, it's blue. And we could also say while we're hovering over it, if we're hovering over it, I made it background color. That looked kind of ugly, but I just wanted to stay that for this example. The background color goes yellow. The words stay the same as whatever the style sheet was before that, but the background turns yellow. And then just like our last example, we had the H1, which defaults to a certain size and black print with a white background. I can actually change it to anything I want. So this gives us the ability to change the H1. So now the website, this is the end of the header. Now we begin the body of our website. So the first thing we do is we put in the navigation buttons. Now the thing is this. We defined up above basically a bunch of words, and then we said this word, like body, has these attributes. Navigation bar has these attributes. Nothing is going to be seen yet. We've just made a bunch of definitions. But by going through that part, which is a little painful, defining all of the attributes about all these different sections we plan to have in our HTML page, it makes life easier now, because we could say an unordered list, and then we say class navbar, which is defined above. So that's basically saying all the attributes that are above, defined under navbar, are now going to be used until we close out this UL, which is down here. Here's where it closes out. So now we have a list item, a list item, a list item. The A thing, now we already defined what the A's are. The A, whether you visited it, haven't visited, or hover, will take effect for all of these. So now we'll go to this page, and these words will take the effect of whatever the A's are. And the A's could have three different fields, like I say. It's, you know, hover, visited, and never been visited before. So if you decided you want to change that background from being yellow, right, this part, if you want it, so when I'm hovering, see how the background of the words are yellow? If you want that to change, what you would do is you would go to what we would do is we would change this part. We would change this part, this yellow, to a different color. So basically what we're saying is for the A attribute, which breaks into three things, the link, the visited, and the hover, these are attributes about that. So we just change it back. Now you might be thinking, what's the difference if we write it up above? If we write it up above and then refer to it, or why don't we just write it when we use it? Well, if we wanted to have different sections, suppose we had a different menu bar over here with the same attributes, so it would be nice to just write it once. And that way if we ever decided to change it, we change it once and they can change it around. So that's our second example. And now the thing is this. You can write the style sheet directly into the HTML file yourself, right? So like we just did in this example, the HTML file, at the beginning of the file, we defined the style sheet. So the style sheets was this stuff, and that went right down to here. That's where the style sheet ends, right here. And then we said, okay, now we've defined all that. That's the end of the header, and now we'll start using it. Suppose we wanted the same exact look and feel for our entire website. Well, then we'd have to keep copying the style sheet into all the files, right? So what's the first thing you would think of if you want to have the same style for many pages? Template. Well, yeah, it's a template like in Dreamweaver templates. The idea is to write it once and then have every file use it. But what we can also do is take these style sheets and actually put it in a separate file and then make this file included somehow. So it's different. It's the same ideas of Dreamweaver template, but what we're doing is we're going to make a separate file called the file extension is going to be, this will be example 3. So this is almost the same exact example, but what I've basically done is took the previous example and I've cut out the style sheet and put it in a separate file, and it's a separate file by the name of, it has a name and it ends in .css, which is the Cascading Style Sheet. So it'll look like this. We can see how it gets included. So this is the same exact example, but instead of this is the whole example. This is actually the entire file. So it's the same exact example as before, with one difference. And the one difference is, you see this line that says link rel style sheet href, and then I have example3.css. On the last example, that line was not there, and instead the entire style sheet was there. Now what I did was I took that style sheet, saved it into a file called example3.css, and now this file is just saying go get that file and include it. So if we had 10 different files including the same style sheet, and then changed the one style sheet, all 10 pages would look different. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier to do. So there's not a whole lot of magic here, but you might notice when you're using Dreamweaver and you start creating style sheets, you'll start seeing in your folder files that end in .css. And that's where it's writing style sheets to. And the other thing, when you go to start changing attributes to sections of your web page, you might see, it might say the name of the section with the style sheet, and it might even say that this style sheet is in a different folder. So, I'm sorry, this style sheet is in a different file, a .css file. So, you're trying in Dreamweaver to change the attribute about the region of your web page, and it could be in many different places. And Dreamweaver goes and finds them all. So, Dreamweaver does a good job of it, it's just you want to know what's going on behind the scenes. So, and this is the same with the yellow, but now it's in a different style sheet. So so basically here's my directory. Example 2 is the whole thing in one file. And example 3, the CSS sheet goes like this. I edit this. This entire file is just like we had before. Here's the body, here's the unordered list navigation bar, the unordered list navigation list item bar, and so forth. So I just basically copied all the style sheets, put that in a separate file that ends in .css. And then the original one, I just say, go get that file. So really the difference between example 2 and example 3 is the style sheet is in a different file. So the last example, example 2, and example 3 is pretty much the same. Okay. So the fourth example that I want to cover, really the last example, is this. Okay. So we could have, on our web page, we could put a rectangle into our web page, give a certain size to it, and basically, in this example, I made a rectangle that is 1,000 pixels wide and 500 pixels high. So I just declared that. Now, that's declared in a style sheet. So basically, maybe let me show that style sheet. So if I do view source for this page, what I basically did was I know I'm going to be creating an area called the container. So this is a container. What I'm basically trying to do is I'm trying to build a rectangle, then start putting smaller rectangles inside the bigger rectangles, because I'm trying to create a mess, actually. But I want it to be a little messy so we can follow what's going on, but not too messy. So I made a container. That's the outer area. It's 1,000 width. So these are now style attributes about that region. So it's 1,000 pixels wide, 500 pixels high. Anything that overflows this box, if you tried to stuff a smaller rectangle into this, anything where it overflows will be hidden. So I could have made it where it's not hidden, and then a smaller rectangle could stretch out past the bigger rectangle, but we made it hidden. And then, yeah, some other attributes, and then I made the color of the background yellow and the color of the print green. So any typing will have a background of yellow and the color of the words would be green. Then I made another box called Division 1 and Division 2. So back to this example. This outer box is what we call the container. Oh, no, actually we made a style sheet called the container. Then I have another style sheet that is, the attributes are, it's 500 wide, so it takes up half of this, and 400 deep. So that's why we see yellow here, because we said the outer one had a yellow background and green words. Then I put a rectangle inside this rectangle of a length 500 by 400, and its starting location is 0, 0. It starts in the upper corner here, and then goes down to here. Then I added another region, which is 700 wide. Now the thing is this, so it's 700 wide and it's 600 high, and it starts at location 600, 0, 0. So it starts here, Now, we only have 400 pixels left inside that container, but I made it 600 wide, so it really goes out to here. But because we said the outer container, anything that overflows gets hidden, we don't see it. But actually this orange box goes out to about here. And it is 600 high, so it goes down to here. The box is kind of like here. But anything that overflowed, the outer box got hidden, because that's an attribute. That's the style sheet we said, that gets hidden. And then inside each of these boxes, I started putting pictures and words in. So you start to see how it, you have to kind of be careful so they don't get messy. But, so the those are the outer container attributes. Then an area I call Division 1 and Division 2 have those attributes I just went over, these different sizes. 700 wide by 600 deep is the second one. And then I just made the background blue and the words are in white. The background's orange, the words are in red, just to have, different things on top of each other. So we described the whole style sheet. That's the end of the style sheet right here. And just like example 3, I could have taken the style sheet and thrown it into a different file and called it .css and then included it, but I left it all in one. So now we're ready to begin our web page, and our web page says, I'm now saying, okay, this is now an HTML tag called a division. I'm creating a division, and I'm saying the division is going to follow the rules of container, which we described above, 1000 by 500 with whatever color they are. Inside that division, I'm going to have another division, and I indented it so we can kind of follow what's going on. So inside the first division, I'm now going to have a division 1. So the attributes of division 1, it makes the size of the rectangle like we said, and the background colors and all that. And I also threw in 2 images. So I have the Mets, and I made the width and the height. I set the width and the height, and I set it to such a number that it won't take up the whole box. So I have the Mets and the Giants. And then I say, just in words, I say local baseball and football teams. So now the question is, what color will these words come out? We could have done this font thing. We could have said font color equals, like right above this line, and controlled whatever color we want that word to be. But we didn't say that. So what color would they be? So it's basically, we are still, these words, local baseball and football team, those words which appear here.
It's
Well, you know the answer now, they're white. But where would it get its color and background attribute from? Closest one.
from division 1.
Right. So basically, we have the back. The body is the furthest one to the back. Then we have the container, which is yellow background and green words. And then we have the division 1 on top of that. If that has color attributes, it'll take those. If it doesn't, then we'd stay with the green and the yellow. So did that have attributes? So that would be division 1, and then if we go up to the top, the definition of division 1 says the color is white and the background is blue. So if I took away this color is white, what would you expect to happen? It should turn. It's not going to come out too well. Okay, but let me do that. Where's this open? This is example 4. So if I take away the color, this color white, this line, that's division 1. Right now, that's why the words are coming out in white, because we said for division 1, they'd be white. If we take that away, then there's no color attribute, so it should be the style sheet that it's laying on top of. So it should switch to green. Right? Get rid of this. Save, and then I bring the page back up.
It's there.
Yeah, it's up here now. See? It's green, it's up here, and I don't know if the
Yeah,
camera
it's
can pick that up. But it also moved, because it thinks it can fit up here now. I don't know why that happened. Did I chop off some of the words? It didn't change the size. Oh,
Yep.
maybe it did. No, it didn't change the size. So, anyway, it went back. I don't know why the words, why it thinks the words are smaller, but not that one. What did we change it? We changed it. Background color to this one, right? Div 1, yeah. Okay, so I just want to change it back. So it was color, white, and semicolon, and then save it. Okay, so, so the words, for whatever reason, now,
No, you have given space after in the division one.
what's that?
You have given some space, maybe because of that. At the top, 0 pixels, and then this.
Oh, this thing?
I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. See if that makes it.
It extends the division one.
Okay. All right, well, that part, okay, thanks anyway. But that part's not really not, we're just talking about style sheets for tonight. So anyway, now we're back to white, and it took the sentence and wrote it here and then continued it over here. Okay. And then the question is, why is this New Jersey Devils coming out in what looks like red with this orange background? If the container, the bigger box, is set to yellow background, green words, why would this be coming out red? What?
Yeah, no, the division, so.
Well, this division, which is actually bigger than the area, you know, it's overflowing, must have a color equals red. Otherwise, it would just be the color of what's behind it, which is the yellow section. So it must have a color equals red. So, division, that would be division 2, and it has a color equals red attribute. Background is orange. So if I got rid of the background is orange, I think you guys are getting the point now. If I get rid of the background is orange for this section, what
It
would
would
this
be
area turn to?
Yellow.
Yellow, because that's the background of what it's on top. Okay. So, let's see, anything else interesting? Okay, so suppose I bring up Dreamweaver. And I think our example last class, we had, actually if you want, you could bring up, you remember the website we did last class where we had some buttons on the side? And I think, what do we have? Baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. So the thing is this. So here's the question we want to answer. I think sports 2. This was the template version, right? So we would want to edit the template because the template is where the buttons were. So you see, what we did last class was this. We made a, so you're in the template one, and then if you open up the template, so the colors of these buttons and the backgrounds, and when you hover over them, what happens? If you wanted to change them, and so let's say you wanted to change this area, because we don't like this blue, this green color. We'd like to have a different color. So we would click on the perimeter of it, right? So that basically, we're trying to say, I want to write to this area. I want to change the style sheet of this area. If we then go and click on this pen, which is where we can, this pen is basically what changes the style sheet attributes. We're not changing the words baseball, we're not changing what it hyperlinks to, we're changing the style of it. So if we click on this pen to change it, what is it saying to us? What it's saying, so this is one of the most confusing parts of Dreamweaver. We're now saying we have the Cascading Style Sheet rule definition for the unordered list navigation for the hover, the navigation, the active, and the focus. So we have a number of things here. And if you look at, over here, so you see this area, just have it a second ago. This area, the rules. You can go up and down through here. What this is doing, whenever you click on a box, see this box is on top of this menu, which is on top of this sidebar. So it's a bunch of stuff on top of each other. And when you go to click on an area and there's a bunch of blocks on top of each other, you can scroll up and down to try to find the one you're looking for. And that's what you're doing here, and then the one you pick is the one you're making changes to. So that's why, yeah, so when you hit the pen, you have to first of all pick some rectangle in your web page. Click on the pen, but then the pen could be a bunch of cascading style sheets, and you'll have to scroll up and down to find the one that you want. Okay. So why don't we, we'll take a few minutes and just try to change our buttons here.